The content of this video is not medical advice or a substitute for physical therapy. Please consult your physician or physical therapist before starting any exercise program.
In today's tip, I want to share with you 2 ways that you can start managing your short, tight hip flexors. Now, your hip flexors are those muscles in the front of your hips and thighs that are meant to bend your hip. The trouble comes when they start to shorten and tighten and wind up pulling you forward, bending you at the hip, altering your posture, and getting into your back. So if you're having problems with this or you simply want to avoid it altogether, today's tip is for you. So to start, we're going to need just a padded surface. You're going to just place one knee down on that padded surface and put the other leg forward. So a padded surface can be anything from a folded towel to a folded blanket to an exercise mat like this one. But with one knee down and one leg forward, and be sure to hold on for balance if you need to, you will find yourself already in a little bit of a hip flexor stretch. Now, if your hips are really tight, feel free to hinge forward from the hip a little bit and let off a little bit of that tension. But please notice that I'm keeping my spine relatively neutral. All I want to do is get into a start position that gives me a mild to moderate stretch along the front of this hip and thigh. Now, once I'm in that, I want to back off of it. So I'm going to hinge forward even more to let that stretch off. I rest it for a second, and then I'm going to move my pelvis back into a position where I feel a stretch along the front of that hip and thigh. Once again, please notice I'm keeping my spine neutral. So this isn't bending along my back. This is totally happening at the hip joint. So I'm going to go into and out of this stretch about 8 to 10 times, opening the hip joint, letting the front of that thigh and hip stretch, and then bending out of the stretch or bending forward into my hip flexor a little bit and letting it have a break. This keeps you from reactively tightening once you're done stretching. So we go into and out of this stretch 8 to 10 times, and then we're going to switch forward legs. So once you've switched forward legs, you're going to do the same thing. Find your best start position where you feel a mild to moderate stretch along the front of the hip, and then back out of it. Again, do your best to keep your spine neutral, and you're just moving in and out of this hip stretch, moving only from the hip joint. 8 or 10 times on each side. Now, before I go into my second hip flexor stretch, I just want to remind you that if you like this content, if you find it helpful, please share it with your friends and family. We need your help getting help out to others. Also, please hit like, hit subscribe, click all the buttons. We'd love to have you look at the channel as often as you'd like. And then, if you haven't done so already, look at the notes below this video and go grab my free mini course, Everyday Movements That Are Wrecking Your Back. It's free. You can grab it immediately as soon as you're done watching this video. I think you'll really like it. All right, so for my next stretch, you're just going to need a strap. You can use anything from a dog leash to the sash on your robe to a belt. And all you're going to do here is put a little loop in one end and fasten it around one leg. Now you're going to lie on your side and go ahead and bend this bottom leg. So I've got my knee and my hip bent here on the bottom, and then I'm going to put my hand under my head to keep my head aligned with the rest of my spine, but feel free to use a pillow here for yourself. And then this top leg that I've got the strap around, I'm going to make sure that my foot, my knee, and my hip are all at about the same height. So you don't want to be twisting your leg or twisting at your knee or anything like that. So now once I've got everything at the same height, all I'm going to do is draw my thigh back. So I want you to see, you might have a hard time seeing this on the video, but I'm not changing the bend in my knee. My knee is at about a right angle. I'm not changing that. I'm just straightening my hip joint by drawing my thigh bone back. I'm squeezing my buttock a little bit on this top leg to support it. And then after I've held that stretch for a couple of seconds, I'm going to let it come forward again. So once again, I'm coming off that stretch. So I'm going to draw the thigh back, keeping my knee at a constant position and just squeezing my buttock there, and then I'm going to come off the stretch. So once again, we're going to use this on-off style stretch to open the front of the hip and squeeze the buttock. Now, the bonus with this second position is that once you've stretched the front of the hip, if you've got a pretty open hip here, you can hold the hip straight and then just bend and straighten the knee using your strap. So now you can probably see that I am bending my knee using my strap, and I'm keeping my hips straight. So that's a little bonus stretch for the long head of that quadriceps, which is also a hip flexor. So you can do either or both. Hip stretch, moving the thigh back and forth, or take the hips straight and bend and straighten the knee to get that bonus stretch. Okay, make sure you do it on both sides, and remember that doing it once every once in a while won't make that big of a difference, but daily practice adds up, and you will get more length if you practice it every day, just like you got short for practicing sitting every day. All right, I hope this tip was helpful to you. As always, I enjoy our time together. Keep moving and be well.